Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beauty in 5 Minutes. My name's Megan and today I'm going to be showing you how to achieve a 5-minute eyeshadow look. Ready, set, go. The palette that we're going to be using today is the Soft Glam palette. All you're really going to need is a bronzer, a highlighting shade, and 2 to 3 shadow brushes. Now the brushes that we're going to be using today is just a fluffy brush, which looks like this. This one I believe is INIKA. I've used it so much that the branding has come off. We're then just going to be using a tiny little detailed brush. This one is the M.A.C 239S brush. And this is like a nice to have, but not an essential. This is the Bobbi Brown Eye Sweep. So first things first, I'm just going to prime my eyelids so that they don't get creasy throughout the day or night. Just try to choose more of a mattifying one because your eyelids are quite an oily space. Today, I'm going to be using IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Undereye. Now this concealer is super highly pigmented and a little bit goes a long way. So just making sure that you've spread that concealer nicely. While the concealer is still sort of tacky, I'm just going to grab a powder and we're just going to set that. I'm just going to use the Bobbi Brown Sheer Finish Pressed Powder. And this is where I'm using the Bobbi Brown Eye Sweep, this sort of brush. If you don't have something like this at home, you can always just use your larger powder brush. So we're just going to go in and set the lids. Now by setting the lids, I just find that then when we do go in with eyeshadow, it just allows the shadows to blend in seamlessly. You can either go in with a eyeshadow palette, or you can do what I like to do, and I literally just use my bronzer as my first shadow shade, which is the transition shade. So we're going to go in with that nice fluffy blender brush, and I'm just going to use Hoola by Benefit today, but you can use whichever bronzer you like. We're going to tap into the product, and then I just like to tap off some of the excess so that you don't get fallout. Try not to tap your brush onto your bathroom vanity or a table because it can loosen the hairs. We're going to grab the brush and we're going to push it just into that little crevice which sits underneath your brow bone. And you're just going to push right into that little socket area. And then you're just going to do little windshield wiper motions. I'm just going to go in with a slight bit more powder just so that I can build that up. I'm not really taking it up. I'm not really taking it onto the mobile lid, which is here. I'm just keeping it in that socket area. The thing that you have to remember when it comes to eyeshadow is blending is key. So you don't want any harsh lines and you don't want to really be able to tell where your shadow stops and starts. So if I wanted to use a lighter shade, I would go for something like Orange Soda, which is just there. So I'm just going to use a mix of both Orange Soda and Tempera, and I'm just going to place them just above the transition shade so that we have a really nice seamless blend. That's pretty much it for an everyday look. The only other step that I would do is I would go in with a bit of a brow bone highlight because I love that look. Today I'm going to go in with a little bit of glistening, which is up here. This is a highly pigmented shade and I'm going to take it onto this little detailed brush here, which is the M.A.C 239S. Now the reason why I like to highlight my brow bone is I just feel like it gives the eye area a little bit of dimension and it also helps to, I guess, draw attention to my brows. So I would just leave my eye look there and just go straight in with a little bit of liner or mascara. If you did want to add a shade to the mobile lid, you definitely could. If you're feeling like you want to be a little bit shimmery, you could go in with something like Fairy or Glistening or whatever shade you wanted to do. But I think I'm going to keep it more matte for an everyday look. I'm just going to go in with Tempera and I'm just going to really gently pack that on to my mobile lid and we're just going to press that along the lash line. I will show you one more add-on if you did want to, I guess, add a little bit more definition around the eye. So we're just going to go into this shade here, which is Rustic. For this shade, we're looking for anything that is 1 to 2 shades darker than your transition shade that we used at the start. And again, just using a nice little fine brush like this, we're just going to create a tiny, tiny little V along the lash line and then up towards our little eye socket to create a little bit of definition on the outer eye. And then you can just grab any fluffy brush and you're just going to buff out that last shade. And the way that I like to buff is just in round little windshield wiper motions. So we're not going to buff all the way up to here into our brow bone. We're just going to keep it nice and low along the lash line. And as you can see, that has just created a bit more smoky drama. You can apply this technique to any shade range. So if you wanted to do this look with purple hues, with pink hues, with bronzy hues, you could do that too. Just use the exact same techniques on any shades that you like. Okay, so I've just popped some mascara onto the top lashes. I'm just going to smoke up a little bit underneath our eyes, just so that we're not too top heavy. Let's balance everything out. I'm again just going to take that little detailed brush that we used earlier on, and I'm going to dip into Hoola. Take a little bit of product because we don't want too much. And I'm just going to push that right underneath my lower lash line. And then we're just going to shimmy the brush across our lower lashes. If you feel like this is a little bit too dramatic for your eye look, you could just go in with a shade that's even lighter than your transition color, or you could just pop on some mascara and call it a day. I'm just going to pop on some mascara to the bottom of my eyes now. I think I can take out my little elf ears now. So let's just do a quick recap because there were a few steps there. So step number 1, prime the eyelids. You can do this with an eyeshadow primer or just use a mattifying concealer. 2, set that concealer with some powder. 3, grab a fluffy brush and use a transition shade through your socket. 4, use a lighter shade to buff out that transition color. 5, let's highlight the brow bone. 6, you can add a pop of color or vibrancy onto your mobile lid. And optional step number 7, you can go deeper on the outer half of your eye by adding a little bit of smoky dimension. And last but not least, step number 8, you can smoke up your bottom lash line if you wish to. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you have any questions at all, just pop them in the comments and we will be sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye guys.